Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers traded for an infielder. Does that indicate maybe some concern about Max Muncy's health or Gavin Lux's defense? We'll dig into all of that, plus a lot more. Let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. My name is Jeff Snyder. That guy next to me is Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. And with that said, Vince, let's jump right in. The Dodgers had an off day, their only off day of the spring, actually. No game. I don't think they even did workouts, although we did see a video of Dave Roberts breakdancing and getting a slap on the butt from Mookie Betts in return. So, there's always something happening at Camelback Ranch, but nothing, nothing game-wise anyway. And so, but they did make a trade, which was nice of them to have some news for us. They traded for a guy named Andre Lipcius from the Tigers. Lipcius had been DFA'd by the Tigers last week when they claimed Buddy Kennedy, I think is the guy's name, from the Cardinals. That guy had been DFA'd by the Cardinals when the Cardinals signed Brandon Crawford. So it all comes back to the Giants, as always. But the Dodgers now have a guy named Andre Lipcius, and we got a couple of questions. One person asking if the Dodgers got Lipcius, if that means that maybe they're concerned about Max Muncy's hand. One of our insiders asked me if Lipcius means that they are more concerned that they're letting on about Gavin Lux's defense. And, Vince, I guess I'll let you go first, your thoughts on that, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah. I mean, in general, there is likely a concern about Lux's defense, but not Andrew Lipcius being the answer for that. Kind of what we talked about over the offseason with some of the trades they made, and now this one specifically, is that the Dodgers don't have a lot of depth shortstop in terms of guys in the organization. It's on the roster. Chris Taylor can't play shortstop. Miguel Rojas can play shortstop. Kike Hernandez can't play shortstop. But beyond that, and obviously Gavin Lux, but beyond that, they don't necessarily have too much available in the upper minors. They got Trey Sweeney in the trade with the Yankees. They got Noah Miller the other day, who not quite up there, but good enough glove at least to play in the majors right now. And now a move like this, Lipcius, a guy that can just play shortstop. And I'm always worried about when we dismiss some of these smaller trades, because that's exactly what we did with the Chris Taylor trade a long time ago, and that ended up being something. But it's one of those trades where this guy's a guy for depth. He could remain with the Dodgers, or play for OKC, somehow get to the Dodgers with the injury, or he could get DFA'd when they need another roster spot for somebody else. But as of right now, I don't think there's any extra concern that this guy answers. I think it's just a matter of getting some depth in the upper minors for somebody that can play shortstop for a major league team.
Yeah, although, Lipcius, looking at his stats, he hasn't actually played shortstop regularly since college. He was a shortstop in college, but he's been mostly a third baseman and second baseman. I think he didn't have the range. And from what I was reading on some of the scouting reports, probably doesn't even have the range for second base. It seems like he is more of a third baseman type. And like you said, they did get Sweeney and Miller, and so they do have more of that shortstop depth, but some of this corner and field depth on the 40-man roster specifically. The Dodgers 40-man roster is pretty light on position players at this point. And so looking at this, like we talked about, they have just a handful of guys because they've got too many catchers on the 40-man roster, but then beyond that, other position players, it's really, there's no, before they got Lipcius, there's nobody who you think, okay, that guy's a minor leaguer, but he's on our 40-man roster. You got Andy Paez is the closest thing to that, and Pages and Vargas are both kind of pushing for big league spots. They're both likely to play in the big leagues this year. You could make a case that they are both big league ready. Whereas Lipcius, even though he's debuted in the big leagues, that was for the Tigers. He's probably not a big leaguer right now, but he is the kind of depth that you want. You always want the kind of depth that you don't feel bad DFAing when you don't need it anymore. And we've seen it in the past a lot of times at catcher. Austin Wynns and even Travis d'Arnaud back before he remembered how to play baseball. They have somebody else, Tony Walters. They always have these catchers who, okay, well, our backup catcher's hurt, so yep, sure, come be on the 40-man roster for a week, and then you're going to get DFA'd. And I would guess Lipcius, I would guess their thought process was basically, this guy's free. We have a guy we can put on the 60-day IL to make room for this guy on the 40-man roster. Either we'll turn him into something or we won't, and we'll DFA him when we need the spot, like you said, Vince. And, he's apparently a pretty smart guy. He majored in some sort of nuclear engineering or something in college, probably a pretty smart guy. And that may appeal to the Dodgers because they do have their approach to player development is, it could benefit a guy like that, So, like you said, we don't want to dismiss this and say he's never going to amount to anything, because I would never dismiss anybody who's going to now spend time with the Dodgers player development system. And he could turn into something legitimate. Chances are it is more for depth. But, he is a guy, if they don't end up needing that 40-man roster spot anytime soon, he could stick for the next, several months in AAA. And then, somebody gets hurt or just needs a break. Max Muncy, his legs are tired. Okay, let's go with the 10-day IL with tired legs and bring up Andre Lipcius and see what he can do for a little bit. There's plenty of ways we could see him in the big leagues this year. I wouldn't necessarily say it's likely, but it's possible. But I think that my main takeaway from this is that the acquisition of Lipcius has nothing to do with the current Dodgers roster. This was not a reactionary move. It was this guy's available and we have room for him, so let's see what we can do kind of move.
Yeah, and the other part, if not for DFA, we talk about that, but even just being concerned, if somebody gets hurt but they don't know if he's going to be out 10 days or 20 days, you're not going to really want to bring up Vargas or Pages to come kind of sit on the bench, because the Dodgers do have other depth on the already major league roster. So a guy like this could come up, say it, maybe not even bat or play, and then if they do need the roster spot back, that's where the DFA comes in.
Yeah, maybe one thing it might mean is maybe the chances of Chris Owings making the team went down. I mean, he wasn't going to make the big league roster, but there was a chance, I guess, they might have added him to the 40-man roster to play in AAA. Although he's got enough service, he'd probably have to agree to that if he was on the 40-man roster. So, but yeah, maybe this affects Chris Owings a little bit. He may have to decide, do I want to play in AAA off the 40-man roster, or do I want to opt out and try to pick up with another team? But Chris Owings, somebody was asking me about Chris Owings the other day. I'm like, we have 11 years of 71 OPS plus telling us what Chris Owings is. And, he's a guy you'd love to have in the organization because he can fill in at multiple positions if you need it, but he's not going to help anybody win a World Series. So, and that's probably the same for Andre Lipcius, but like you said, we hope we're wrong. That our soundbite from our old podcast when they got Chris Taylor is a fun one to listen to. So maybe we'll be looking at this a year or two from now and say, man, we were so dumb about Andre Lipcius, about reigning National League MVP Andre Lipcius. So you heard it here first, folks. Speaking of Dodgers MVPs, Mookie Betts talked to Ken Rosenthal last week and had some interesting comments about what he wants his legacy to be. We're going to dig into that. So thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for the playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. conference tournaments are here, which means the biggest moments in college basketball are getting closer. So be a part of the action on PrizePicks for both men's and women's college basketball. You can also start getting in on thoughts for Major League Baseball. PrizePicks is pretty fun. You just pick more or less. It's just over-unders, and they're not the Major League Baseball isn't high on their website priorities, but you can find it and you can already start looking at maybe home run totals. Shohei Ohtani, his number is 38.5. You pick less or more. Do you think Shohei is going to hit 38 or fewer homers, or do you think he's going to hit 39 or more? Bryce Harper is, I just noticed Shohei still has an Angels hat on the website. So, he's not going to hit any for the Angels, but he's getting bid about 50 for the Dodgers. So hit the more on that one. Freddie Freeman's number is 26.5. I might go less on that because he's going to hit 75 doubles. Mookie Betts, 32.5. I'd go more on that one. So, I'm not telling you how to pick, but those are my thoughts and all sorts of stuff. There's also non-Dodgers on there. You can look at all the other sports, basketball, like I said. So download the app today, PrizePicks, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the PrizePicks app and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Hey, we're back. Thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. We especially want to thank our everydayers, those of you who are with us every weekday morning, either on YouTube or on the podcast. If you're not with us, if you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can also go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It's a text message based service. We text out, our thoughts on trades and rumors and all sorts of stuff, news. You can also reply to us, have one-on-one text conversations. That's a lot of fun. We've got dozens of you over there right now. We're having a lot of fun having those conversations. So go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and check out the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. Those are Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, giving you the full breakdown on sports, whether you want the whole picture or the Los Angeles specific picture. There's something for you there. And with that said, Los Angeles sports-wise, Mookie Betts talked with Ken Rosenthal last week. I think this was February 29th. So what was that, Friday-ish, Thursday? One of those days that Kim Rosenthal put out this article on The Athletic about an interview he had with Mookie Betts. He kind of records a bunch of these interviews during spring training that they then use on the Fox Saturday games throughout the season. And he was talking to Mookie. And one of the really interesting things that he picked up on, Rosenthal asked Mookie what motivates him and what fuels him. And Mookie said, my family, obviously, but then just to drive with them myself, just to be great. I want to be great. When I'm done, I want you to remember not necessarily just the baseball player, but Mookie. I want to be a legend in the game. And he went on to say, how I create that, I have no idea. I'm just kind of going about it and bringing smiles to people's faces when I can, trying to sign some autographs when I can, be the best player I can be when I'm playing, be the best teammate I can be. Whatever comes my way, I'm just going to try and be the best at it no matter what. If it's sitting on the bench, I want to be the best cheerleader. Whatever it is, I think if I can do that, I feel like that will create some type of legacy that I can leave. You won't remember all the on-field stuff, but I want people to remember who Mookie was off the field for sure. Kind of maybe more candid than we've seen Mookie in some of the stuff. And it's kind of funny, Vince, the evolution of Mookie Betts over the years. When he was at the Red Sox, like he didn't like to speak out much at all, and we've seen him embrace this role with the Dodgers of a team leader and a public figure over the last couple of years. And this is kind of the next step there, I think.
Yeah, a lot different than the comments from Anthony Rendon, I would say, in terms of making baseball a priority along with your family. But regardless of that, yeah, for Mookie, we've seen that transition in terms of being a very good baseball player with not a lot of public persona to somebody that is in the public spotlight, to somebody that is doing different things, to somebody that, MLB correspondent at the World Series. He has his own podcast. He has his foundation. He has a production company that has made a couple things already. He is out there, with the Dodgers and their foundation. And then, all that plus being really good on the field, finishing second in MVP last year on the field and, leading the Dodgers to World Series his first year, just a lot of different things that have happened so far. And he's on that trajectory to be a Hall of Famer. And, in itself, Hall of Famer is a legend. But I think Mookie Betts, he's talking about, and like you said, it's not just all the on-field. You want to remember the off-field stuff too. And I think that's, the path he's heading to. And as long as he can, I'm not saying this in the way of, as long as he can still be good on the field, then he can still do all this stuff off the field. It's a matter of as long as he feels he's giving his best on the field, which is what he would do anyways, and continue to do everything off the field. I think, that's something not everyone can strive for, but someone like Mookie Betts can strive for and has obviously been doing it already. And, for us as Dodger fans, I mean, we still have him around for a lot more time. So, and he always says that, talking about his career and everything else. And he kind of says it. I know he said it on his podcast a few times last year, like, I still got like 10 years to be around here. So I still got a lot to do.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. He acknowledged in this interview with Rosenthal that he used to shy away from this kind of thing. And he said it's his friends that have kind of been on him. He said, my friends really stay on me. They tell me to embrace who you are. Embrace when you walk into somewhere and someone wants to come take a picture or someone gets nervous. I used to kind of shy away from it. Now, when I see somebody that's kind of shy, I go and talk to them. I go and humanize myself. I'm a normal person just like everyone else, but there are some things that I do a little differently, and there are some lives that I affect a little differently, and I think I should embrace that. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. It's weird for me, and it's weird even saying something like that, but it really stems from my friends. They've been with me since I was in 5th grade, so they've seen where I was then. We had no idea any of this was going to happen. And I think of his relationship with Freddie Freeman like that, because Freddie and Mookie both are just such nice guys, and they do have, and you don't necessarily have to be a nice guy to be a legend. I think about some of the baseball players who you would say are legends beyond just what they did in baseball. Like Reggie Jackson was one of the most famous players of all time. He was good. He was a legit Hall of Famer, but he wasn't as good as a lot of people who aren't as well known, and that's because Reggie embraced it. And, even as something as easy as Mookie has a memorable name like Reggie does, it's easy to chant. It's easy to remember. There's not many of them, but Reggie wasn't super likable until after he was retired. When he was playing, he was a jerk, even his own teammates didn't like him. But Mookie, I think, has that different approach and recognizing, like he said, that the impact that he can have. You can tell he thinks it's cool, the life that he gets to live because of his athletic ability. And he's come to realize that he wants to use that to make other people happy. And I think, as far as different ways to try to become a legend, that's about the best way I can think of.
Yeah. And I mean, as someone who gets to be at Dodgers batting practice a lot during season, last couple of years, you see him, not everybody stops and signs, especially a guy like Mookie Betts, stops and signs for the people that are there that get to be on the field for batting practice. But, Mookie does it a lot. If there's kids around, he stops for them. Last year at the World Series, he stopped and talked to one of the Make-A-Wish kids for like 5 minutes. He just sat there and talked to him. And I was right there just kind of listening. Yeah, Mookie's humanized himself and, just kind of talking about, not like he's not Mookie Betts, like he's just any other random guy. And it's easy to praise Mookie, especially us as Dodger fans, but it's not something that is very common. Now, there are a lot of players that do very well in terms of interacting with fans and signing autographs and all that type of stuff, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take it, we shouldn't praise it. Anybody that does do that, we should praise it. And yeah, Mookie's definitely moving forward, get a couple more championships to solidify that on-field legendary status. Keep doing the podcast as long as I'm working with Bleacher Report, and I think we're all set.
Yeah, I think about some of these guys. Justin Turner. I just saw on my Facebook memories today. It would have been 7 years ago today. I think I was there at spring training with my son, and Justin Turner stood and signed autographs for probably 40 minutes and signing and taking pictures with kids. And at one point, the there were some adults, some grown men like pushing to try to get to the front to get their stuff signed. And JT stopped and he said, "Hey guys, knock it off. I'm going to stand here and sign until everybody's gotten it, but I'm going to do the kids first. So back off." And like, as a dad, I thought that was the most awesome thing, and like, I've seen videos like pregame as we're getting ready for the spring training games, they show Shohei signing autographs. And it's like, Shohei Ohtani is the biggest name in baseball, one of the biggest names in sports. I mean, those autographs are probably worth a lot of money immediately. And some of those people are just trying to get the autographs to sell them, but that doesn't turn him off to it. He's signing as many autographs as he can. I like guys like that. And so I'm glad that Mookie is trying to become a legend in Dodger blue, and going about it this way, because it makes him really, really easy to root for. Rooting for the Dodgers always involves their celebrations when they get on base. And we've seen a couple people, Kike and Freddie, and maybe some others, do a new celebration. We're going to talk about what it looks like, if we think that's going to be the celebration this year, and maybe our thoughts on what they could do. So that's what's coming up. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. There's so much basketball going on. March Madness, it's March, so March Madness is coming. We got conference tournaments going on, and then the NCAA tournament. BYU is probably going to win it all because they want to make their most favorite alum, Jeff Snyder, happy, having a good season. So, if you want to put $5 on BYU to win their first round NCAA tournament game, boom, you get $150 in bonus bets if you're right about that. So you can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Hey, we're back. Thank you again to all our everydayers for being with us every weekday morning. Please become an everydayer if you're not. It's a lot of fun. We love talking Dodgers with you, and we never miss a day, and we don't plan to ever start. So we hope you'll join us with that. You can also become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And with that said, Vince, I think Kike Hernandez was the first person I saw when he hit a double the other day. He got second base, and he put his hands up almost like he was going to do the Freddie dance from last year. But then instead of waving the arms back and forth, he just picked up his left leg and just kind of, I don't even know. I'm not a dancer, so I don't know dance lingo. But he just kind of stuck his butt out a little bit and kind of kicked the left leg out a little bit, and just kind of a quick boom. It's shorter than the Freddie dance. The Freddie dance could be as long as people wanted it to be last year. You could just keep going. I also saw Freddie Freeman do it on first base, which seemed like a departure because I think the Freddie dance was only for doubles and maybe triples last year, but not for singles. I've seen some mixed reviews, and no, I haven't. Most people don't seem to like this celebration. I haven't seen anybody really celebrating it. People who commented thought, "Oh, that's kind of dumb." I didn't have strong negative feelings about it, but I don't know. What did you think when you saw it, Vince?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what it was. I've seen some people compare it to anime, maybe Dragon Ball Z or something like that, where the guys like power up and that's how they do it. I saw a video that we get so many videos that we didn't get before with Japanese media of like Ohtani. So I wasn't sure if it was like that's what Ohtani's stretch looks like, and that's what they're replicating, or if Ohtani was practicing that move, because it was him and Freddie kind of stretching out and working out, and that was part of the process. About again, I wasn't sure if Ohtani was practicing the move or like that's one of his stretches that he does, and now the Dodgers are replicating that. I don't love it, but I don't have a strong dislike toward it. It's one of those things where if we get a cool backstory to it, if it is, making fun of Ohtani and the way he stretches, that would be funny and make a little bit more sense, which is kind of how the Freddie dance was built last year. The Freddie dance, they didn't have that the first part of the season. They had, I don't even remember they had something else. And then they brought in the Freddie dance later on in the year, and everything's had a backstory. When they were doing the top of the head, that was from Trey Turner and Wolf of Wall Street, and they've had other stuff in the past. So if we get a backstory to it, I'll have more of an opinion. But initial opinion is it's not the best celebration they've had, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I really do think the backstory is very important because these things come about organically. The good ones, I think the Freddie dance, like without the backstory, it's dumb, but the fact that it's dumb is the point. And so that made it fun, and the Wolf of Wall Street thing, like we didn't really totally understand what it was. Then we found out what it was, like, oh, that's fun. It was fun when whoever that was, Harlan Garcia, it caused a stir after he struck out Mookie Betts and did that. It's those things are organic. I still miss the bubble machine. When was that? 2015, 16, somewhere around there. It's been a while. So, and that was just for home runs. And, so there's always different things, but I expect that this, either we will find out a backstory or it will go away because they'll come up with something that is more organic. I feel like, David last year.
The choo-choo train.
Yeah, the choo-choo. That's what it was. I was going to say David Peralta was something. So, so, maybe this will just be the placeholder until they come up with something better. I don't know. I've been trying to think, and it's hard to even think of what we want it to be because nobody would have chosen the Freddie last year because nobody knew that Freddie Freeman danced like that,
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you can have a generic one, like the last year, that was a pretty generic one. And the season felt a lot more fun once the Freddie dance came into it. So, maybe that's one of those where it starts as it, or they do something else generic and then, something organic comes by it. But, it's kind of interesting. There's, for as many teams there are, and almost every team has some variation of a celebration, mostly for extra base hits or, home runs, that we still continue to get new ones every year. And, I don't know how long that'll last, but at least for the Dodgers, it's continued to last. But yeah, I would imagine when they get back, since over the weekend, it was kind of the talk of everything, maybe that we'll get an answer to what this actually is. But until then, we'll just have to see what happens from it.
Yeah, I've never watched any anime, so if it is something based on anime, that would be explain why I don't recognize it. I think between my age, I think it's mostly my age. I don't know when anime became popular here in the United States, but I suspect. But even like, I don't play video games either. Like I don't know that I would have been into anime anyway. But yeah, so if it's that, that would be a fun backstory if it is related to Shohei Ohtani. And it could also mutate still, the way that Kike and Freddie have done it doesn't have to be the final answer. It could get more exaggerated. And, once we have a backstory, they could exaggerate it more. Cause like, that was like one of my favorite things about the Freddie dance is that no two guys did it the same way. And so, Kike came and he really got the hips involved. And with Freddie, like kind of what made the original Freddie funny was that Freddie didn't use his hips hardly at all. It was like, he was just an old white guy trying to dance, and so it was, it's fun. And so I suspect that this will either get fun quickly or get replaced quickly.
What I have seen that's interesting, again, and every time we talk about stuff on social media, it's whatever is on my timeline, my For You page. It's not a general consensus, but the things I have seen of people upset with it were relating it to Kike because he's the first one to do it. And there are some Kike detractors out there in the general baseball world, which is interesting to me to have such strong feelings about a guy that is not an everyday player. But regardless, it's just funny to I don't know if that, like, if people generally don't like it, or since he's the first one to do it, there's some detractors that don't like Kike, so anything he does kind of falls in that category. Yeah,
and there's some people who don't like any celebration because then it gets done when they're losing a game or something. And I definitely don't fall in the camp of you should always be depressed anytime you're losing. Like, I wouldn't be super exuberant about it if I hit a double when we were down 16-0. But that's why you have it. You do it and you do it. And even down 16-0, baseball's great that you can always come back. They got to get you out or else you keep scoring, and so a double could be the start of a comeback, and you'd look silly if you didn't do it. We started a 16-run rally and I didn't even do my dance on second base when I started it. What's wrong with me? So I think baseball players should probably have fun while they're playing baseball.
Yeah.
I think that'll do it for us for today. You got anything else, Vince?
No, we got an off day in spring, which had been pretty rare so far, and I think it's not going to happen again. So yeah, we're in it. We're in it.
Not till they're going to Korea. So just remember, you heard it here first. Andre Lipcius, National League MVP 2025. Beyond that, thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Especially thank you to our everydayers. Remember, you can become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. We are on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Wherever you're watching and listening right now, that works. You can also become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It's text messages, alerts from us, one-on-one conversations back and forth. It's a lot of fun, so check that out. It's just a few bucks a month with a free 14-day trial. You can also check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. Our DMs are open there. You can also email us at lockedondodgers@gmail.com or send us a voicemail or a text message at 323-863-LOCK5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.